Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a side of ice hockey history that's been, well, pretty much hidden. It's a powerful story of innovation and resilience, and it really changes the narrative we thought we knew.
So, when you think about the history of hockey, what comes to mind? For most of us, right, it's the original 6 NHL teams. It's a story we know well, defined by those legendary dynasties and iconic players who are household names.
But what if I told you the real story? The really innovative stuff was happening way back in 1895. And it was happening in an all-black hockey league that most people have never even heard of.
Yeah, long before the bright lights of the NHL were even a thing, there was this amazing, super competitive hockey scene bubbling up in Canada's maritime provinces. And it was built not just on sport, but on community and just sheer determination.
And this was it, the Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes, or CHLM for short. Now, this league wasn't just about hockey. It was actually started by Baptist church leaders who had a much bigger mission in mind.
And their plan was, kind of genius. They figured, let's use the excitement of hockey to bring young black men into the church. But it became so much more than that. It was about building community pride, camaraderie. These games turned into huge local events that brought everybody together.
And man, did it work. At its peak, you're talking over 100 players spread across 12 different teams. I mean, look at these names. The Dartmouth Jubilees, the Africville Seasides. It got so popular that their games were actually drawing bigger crowds than the so-called white-only leagues. But this is where it gets really incredible. Their impact on the actual game was huge. The way they played was fast, it was physical, and it was super innovative. We're talking about things that are fundamental to hockey today. An early version of the slap shot, credited to a guy named Eddie Martin. And the butterfly style of goaltending, where the goalie drops to their knees, pioneered by Henry Braces Franklin right here in this league.
And you have to remember the world they were living in. All this amazing stuff was happening in a society that was deeply segregated. As Elizabeth Cook Sumbu, a descendant of one of the players, put it, we had places where we could go and could not go. If you went to the theater, there was a section where you had to sit. So for these guys, every game was a fight, not just for the puck, but for respect.
So that incredible foundation laid by the CHLM, it set the stage for the next wave of black hockey stars. And that brings us to a player who many people say was one of the best players of his time, full stop, even though he never got his shot in the NHL.
So let me introduce you to Herb Carnegie. Back in the 1940s, he, his brother Ozzie, and another player named Manny McTire formed this line that they completely dominated the semi-pro leagues. They were nicknamed the Black Aces, and Herb was the star playmaker at the center of it all. And his talent? It was just off the charts. I mean, get this. In one season, he racked up 127 points in only 56 games. That is absolutely insane. It's no wonder he won MVP in the Quebec League 3 years in a row.
And it wasn't just the fans who noticed. We're talking about hockey royalty here. A young Jean Beliveau, the guy who would go on to be a legend for the Montreal Canadiens, was his teammate. And Beliveau himself said he literally studied Herb's game to get better. He said flat out, "I learned from Herbie."
So the big question is, why on earth wasn't this guy in the NHL? Well, the answer is ugly. The league had this unwritten rule, a color barrier. And it's all summed up in this one infamous alleged quote from Conn Smythe, the owner of the Toronto Maple Leafs at the time. It's brutal. Basically, your skill meant nothing if you had the wrong skin color.
So, Herb Carnegie was tragically denied his dream. But just a few years later, the barrier would finally be broken, and the man who did it was hiding a secret that was frankly unbelievable. And that player's name was Willie O'Ree. On January 18th, 1958, he skated onto the ice for the Boston Bruins and made history. But nobody, not his teammates, not the coaches, nobody, knew the whole story of what he'd overcome just to get there.
But O'Ree's determination went way beyond just fighting racism. He was also hiding a physical disability that, by all accounts, should have ended his career before it even started.
Okay, so here's the secret. The reason his career should have been impossible? He was blind in one eye. Yeah. A few years before his debut, a puck hit him in the face and destroyed 97% of the vision in his right eye. He told absolutely no one, because the NHL had a clear rule: you can't play if you're blind in one eye. So he just taught himself how to play differently, how to turn his head constantly to compensate for a huge blind spot. So just try to imagine this. Every single time he stepped onto the ice, Willie O'Ree was fighting on two fronts.
Outwardly, he was dealing with absolutely vile racial slurs and getting physically targeted. But inwardly, he was battling his own body, his own disability, guided by this mantra: forget about what you can't see and concentrate on what you can see.
It's pretty wild to think that for decades, these stories, the CHLM, Herb Carnegie, even the full truth about Willie O'Ree, were basically just footnotes in hockey history. But thankfully, that has finally started to change.
And it has been a long, long road to get here. The league starts in 1895. Willie O'Ree makes his debut in '58. But it's not until 2020 that the CHLM gets a stamp from Canada Post. And it's only in 2022 that Herb Carnegie finally gets into the Hockey Hall of Fame, and Willie O'Ree gets the Congressional Gold Medal in the US. I mean, it took over a century, but these pioneers are finally getting the recognition they always deserved.
And this is so important. It's not just about history. The legacy is alive and well. Since 1998, Willie O'Ree has been the NHL's diversity ambassador. He travels all over, inspiring a whole new generation of kids from every possible background, showing them that hockey is for them too.
And really, it all boils down to what a former player named Percy Paris said. As a youth, for those of us of African descent, we look for heroes who look like us. When we bring these stories to light, we're providing those heroes. We're showing kids today that they have a place on the ice, that they belong.
You know, this whole story is a powerful reminder that history isn't just some dusty old book on a shelf. It's alive, it's always evolving, and we're always uncovering new parts of it. And it really makes you wonder, right? What other stories have been left out? Whose legacies are still just waiting for us to find them?